All right, we're going to start our last one. It says part 2 on there again, which is a little confusing, but it's meant to end, and we're going to begin with St. Paul. St. Paul, Minnesota's capital, on the Mississippi River, home of the sign. Oh, wait a minute. Not that St. Paul. I'm messing up here. This St. Paul. St. Paul, who is known as being the person who is most responsible for spreading Christianity around the world after the death of Jesus. According to the Bible, St. Paul was viciously against Christians, but then he saw Jesus, after Jesus' death. Jesus came to him in an image and told him to stop persecuting his people and to spread Jesus' word across as far as he could go. St. Paul then basically made it his life work to spread the teachings of Jesus of Nazareth, which became Christianity, to many parts of the world. He used the Mediterranean sea routes, as it was part of the Roman Empire, to spread Christianity. And he wrote many of his letters, like Romans, for example, when he was actually in a jail cell, and that's when he wrote them. You see a picture of him writing down here. And these are many of our, like Philippians is another one. Many of the letters in the New Testament were written by St. Paul. So again, why is he significant? Christianity becomes eventually the religion of Rome, and St. Paul is really the person after Jesus who does the most to definitely spread Christianity until eventually, almost 300 years later, the Emperor Constantine makes it legal with the Edict of Milan and then makes Christianity the official religion of Rome. I'll go through these quick, and yes, you see Constantine up there again. Constantine, let's also do the Edict of Milan. Constantine was the Roman emperor who made Christianity legal. He made it legal with the thing called the Edict of Milan. The Edict of Milan made Christianity legal, very significant because it eventually becomes the religion of the Roman Empire. Okay? Know it. It's going to be many times in our vocabulary word bucket. I forgot to mention that Constantine also had a column of Constantine. You don't need to write this down. But, I think he might have been jealous about the size of the, Edict of Ashoka. So, Constantine definitely wanted to do something about that to show that his edict was a pretty big deal too. Cyrillic. Cyrillic is a big deal because it is a new written language that is made up to spread Christianity to Eastern Europe. In the Byzantine Empire, they make a language called Cyrillic, which is a mix of Greek and other language and a Slavic language to make an alphabet that can be used for teaching Christianity, and it teaches many people in Eastern Europe how to read. Cyrillic is very significant. It's still used today in Russian, for example, is a language that uses it. And it definitely, if you look at it, looks a lot like the Greek letters do as well. But it's used as a language to spread Christianity to Eastern Europe in the Byzantine Empire, which is the eastern half of Rome, that does not fall. The western half of Rome falls. The eastern half keeps going until 1453. That's a long-ass time. Next, the Code of Justinian. Law codes are a big deal. The Code of Justinian are the laws for the Eastern Byzantine Empire. They're made by the Emperor Justinian. They take a combination of Christian teachings with the old Roman laws originally inspired from the 12 tables. So we see that Justinian makes a law code that serves his Byzantine Empire. And here we see basically the Byzantine Empire. It does extend and get a little larger, but the Byzantine Empire is basically the eastern half of the Roman Empire, and Justinian's code are the laws that, again, are based on a combination of Roman law and Christianity. Significant because it's laws that will follow for the empire for many years. Our next word is a hard one to say. Caesaropapism. 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 What does that mean? Caesaropapism is basically when the emperor now basically reorders and runs Rome under a combination of religious authority based on Christianity and the old political Roman authority. So again, this is basically that the emperor in Rome has the authority to rule, not just politically, but also is basically given divine authority to rule underneath from God. It's a combination of Christianity and also rule from political power. This will continue in the Roman Empire and definitely will have a big influence on the patriarch who will rule in the future Byzantine Empire. That thing is a big deal. Let's get to our next guy, Clovis the First of the Franks. He's significant because he's a Germanic, or a person from Central Europe, around where Germany is today, a Germanic king who converts to Catholic Christianity. And let's give a little bit from our reading here what it says here too. Whoops, right there. And basically, he becomes different because he's trying to make an alliance with land-holding elites from the patrician classes. He also becomes Catholic, which aligns him a little more to what's going on in the Byzantine Empire and Roman Empire. So Clovis the First of the Franks, he converts, which brings Christianity to the Germanic area and will help spread Christianity, which is also very historically significant. The Column of Constantine. Again, we talked about edicts. Here's his Constantine. He wanted to go with his big column. Make your own jokes. All right. So what's really amazing about the Column of Constantine is that it's a combination of both pagan, that would be older gods from polytheistic times in Rome, and also Christianity. It still exists today. There it is in Constantinople. It's pretty cool. Basically, the big deal about this thing is that it's a combination. You have basically there are Christian relics, like there's supposed to be a piece of the axe from Noah's Ark. There's supposed to be a piece of the cross which Jesus died. It's supposed to be some of the bread from which Jesus gave to the people when he had the fishes and the loaves. But also, on the model on the top is an image of Apollo, who was a Roman god. So there's Christian relics. There's part of Roman paganism. So we can see at this time that the Romans are becoming Christian, but they're also keeping part of their pagan ideas. Whatever you see there, it's definitely like an Apollo-type god. That's not Christianity right there. So we can see that this is a symbol of culture and religious diffusion that happened as Constantine was making Christianity the religion of Rome. And he also wanted to show people, how big his column was. I'm going to cover 3 words here at once, so get ready. Council of Nicaea, orthodoxy, and heresy. Council of Nicaea met in 325, and it outlined basically what were the official stances of the church. Views of Jesus, rules of the church, and those were laid out. And the rules that were made in the Council of Nicaea, which gave the official position of the church, which is again the Church of Constantine at this time, the Church of Rome, and these were called orthodoxy. Orthodoxy were the official rules to follow of the Christian church. They were enforced by the state or enforced by the government in Rome. So this is a pretty big deal. You had to follow these the right way. Christianity was the official Church of Rome now. Very significant because this means that there was a set of rules to follow for Christianity, or a set of beliefs, or a set of ways to worship in Christianity. Heresy was seen as anything getting away from orthodoxy. It was condemned, and people could be killed if they didn't follow the official rules of orthodoxy that were set in the Council of Nicaea. So people could be killed for making crimes against the church or going against official church belief. That's pretty significant. Those are Council of Nicaea, orthodoxy, and heresy. Nestorian Christianity was Christianity that went as far as China. It got away from the orthodoxy that was set in Rome, so they had some different beliefs and some different practices. And as Christianity traveled on the Silk Roads, especially to places like China, there were some influences that came in, like spirits that were able to come in. The Christian cross, here it says here, was used to bring a charm to bring good weather and to ward off evil spirits and diseases. There were mass conversions and some forms of shamanism that came into Nestorian Christianity. Had some influences coming in from Taoism and Buddhism that would come into Nestorian Christianity. So Nestorian Christianity had influence from the East, and like any religion that spreads of cultural diffusion, there are also changes that happened. So Nestorian Christianity was different than Orthodox Christianity, which was made from the Council of Nicaea. This is significant because Christianity will spread, but there also will be some conflict between Nestorian Christians and Orthodox Christians who believe in from the Council of Nicaea, who will consider themselves the Catholic Church. Coptic Christianity will spread to Africa, and it will become very popular in both Ethiopia, northern Ethiopia, and in Egypt. And it will be basically a unique form of Christianity that's in Egypt and in Ethiopia. It's very significant because it shows the spread of Christianity was beyond just Europe it was able also to flow into beyond just the Empire of Rome and Asia Minor and Constantinople. It was also able to go into Africa as well. There are still significant, there are still Coptic Christians that exist in Egypt until this day. And there are still many Christians who exist in Ethiopia to this day as well. The Upanishads. The Upanishads are writing that goes up against the strict system of Brahmins and their sacrifices. Literally, it means to sit at the feet of the masters. The Upanishads are kind of like a reaction of a way in Hinduism to get around the priest. They're a lot like Taoism, where you're supposed to listen to stories and you're supposed to get, wisdom and thinking from how to live with these. They're part of the Vedas, which are, kind of like seen as this is what you're just supposed to listen to, how you're supposed to become more spiritual, and reading these will connect you to God. Reading them literally means to sit at the feet of the master. Significant because it is going against the kind of the strict rules that exist in Hinduism, that you can kind of like get your own spirituality from reading these stories and just contemplating them and thinking about them. The Bhagavad Gita, which is part of in the Vedas, it's in the story Mahabharata. The Bhagavad Gita you want to associate with duty. You want to associate it with duty in that what you are supposed to do. Again, if you want to think about this, always associate the Bhagavad Gita with Arjuna and how Arjuna was supposed to follow his duty no matter what. Here he is seen speaking to Krishna. So basically, Arjuna is praying to what should he do? He's supposed to go to war against his cousins in the Bhagavad Gita. Basically, Brahman sends a manifestation of himself, Krishna, to tell Arjuna, hey, you're a warrior. That's your job. Your jati, your job is to be a warrior. You need to get out there and fight, whether you want to or not. And Arjuna goes, fights, and that is a major story that tells the importance of duty in the caste system, that you are supposed to do your job no matter what job it is, and that will allow your Atman, or soul, to move up and possibly get even closer to God. Bhagavad Gita, again, is a story historically significant for Hindus because it tells them the importance of following their duty and to do their duty in their own jati or their own caste. All right, let's move on. Bhakti, which is a unique form of Hinduism that developed in southern India and spread to the north. It had really special devotion to gods like Vishnu and Shiva, and it really kind of combined with Buddhism so much so that people didn't even really know if they were Buddhist or Hindu. The two religions kind of like combined and meshed together in a lot of cultural diffusion that we see a lot in South Asia and Southeast Asia. Also, along with more cultural diffusion, what we see in Bhakti Hinduism is that this form of Hinduism allows people who believe in their indigenous native gods, even maybe still use shamans, to allow them to come into the Hinduism fold. So what happens is it embraces people, it's inclusive, and this is why it's also able to spread among much of South and North and even into Southeast Asia with Bhakti Hinduism. We bring up Ashoka once again, and we already saw that, Ashoka, his edict was pretty big, wasn't it? All right, so let's take a look at Ashoka. We know that Ashoka was the emperor who, on the Mauryan Empire, who brought Buddhism to his people after seeking remorse after the death that happened after the Battle of Kalinga, and he brought Buddhism in. As a result, they wanted to spread Buddhism to a much wider audience. Now let's get to our next two terms, which are Mahayana, the greater vehicle, and Theravada. And we're also going to cover Bodhisattvas in here. Get your pencils ready. Some of these you know. Mahayana, the greater vehicle, letting more people into this form of Buddhism. It is seen as the easy school of Buddhism, where nirvana is open to anybody. And Mahayana is very famous for having its bodhisattvas. Bodhisattvas are people who could have gone to nirvana, but are like, you know what, I'll wait. I'm going to help some other people get here first. And they are seen as saint-like figures, almost like gods, who are of enlightenment, but are bringing people into nirvana. That is to be contrasted with Theravada Buddhism, which doesn't have as many people, seen as being harder, and that you have to live a really good life, and that you have to be basically a priest before you can get to nirvana. Theravada Buddhism is seen as the lesser vehicle. It is seen as a harder way to get into nirvana. We're going to have a part 2, so get ready for part 2 coming up.